Hi, it's your favorite Atomic Blonde here with Atomic Rewind. So put your feet up, grab your stolly, and let's go back. So, Atomic Blonde bested onto our screens back in 2017. Won't be a surprise to anyone to know that I love this film, considering I named my channel after it, and I even got a tattoo. That'd keep you wondering, won't it? Anyway, this is a sort of one of the last Cold War films, or was set really at the end of the Cold War. It takes place in 1989, a few days before the Berlin Wall comes down. It's based on a graphic novel called The Coldest City, written by Anthony Johnson. And the film is slightly different to the graphic novel. It pretty much sticks to it, but the ending's different. So if you've read the novel and not seen the film, you may or may not like it. I've got both. I like both. I actually prefer the film ending, if I'm honest, but that's just me. I'm sure lots of people could debate me and tell me otherwise. The film really starts with we see Charlize Theron, who plays Atomic Blonde. We learn in London. She's in this apartment with this amazing view that would be gazillions of millions of pounds to be in said apartment or hotel. And she's in an ice bath. She's absolutely black and blue. That this woman has clearly been through something bad. If you to get an image of this, just imagine like Veruca Salt, purple. This woman's in a bad way. She gets out the bath, pours herself a stolly, takes some painkillers to put plasters on her hands because the hands are all cut. You know, she's clearly like punched someone, and she makes her way to MI6 to debrief. This is where we're introduced to John Goodman, who's the CIA agent, and Toby Jones, who's the MI6 boss, to find out what on earth has transpired in Berlin. When she gets there, she sort of says, I don't think the CIA should be in the room. What I've got to tell you is super sensitive and it's not for their ears. And Toby Jones's character, Eric, just says that, you can say whatever you need to say. And then the film is basically her then doing her debrief, with kind of as she's explaining what's going on. Obviously, there's sort of flashbacks to the action, and we're actually sort of seeing what played out over X amount of days before the Berlin Wall fell. It's a great espionage film if you love that kind of thing. It's what I will reassure people: it's not trying to do a female James Bond or anything like that. Charlene's character Lorraine brought in is a completely her own character. She's not trying to be James Bond on steroids. And again, because the book predates 2016, and I guess this would have been shot around 2016, we don't get the sort of female trope lead that we see in so many things now. Hence why I love this film. She's kick-ass, but she's deeply flawed. Like I say, she gets her ass kicked from one end of Berlin to the other. But her character is kind of believable in those fights. So she gets a debrief. She gets sent off to Berlin. We've been told that her fellow agent has been killed. They say, "Do you know this agent?" And she's like, "No, never sort of heard of him or heard of him in passing." But we saw at the beginning of the film, there's a photograph of her and him, so they were clearly lovers at some point. So she's lying about that. We don't know why. She heads off to Berlin, and she's told she'll be met there by David Percival, who's a MI6 agent who's been in Berlin for too long. As they say, he's kind of gone feral. He's completely entrenched in the way of life there and hopping backwards and forwards between East and West Berlin. He's selling black market goods, making his own living. He's absolutely loving it, and he's one of the agents who doesn't want the wall to come down. So she leaves the West Berlin airport, picked up in a car, and pretty much straight away, she's off to a bad start. She clocks pretty quickly that this isn't David Percival, and they're KGB. They're not her contact. And she has these amazing red stilettos. It's very cool. But anyway, she takes one of those off, clobbers the guy next to her with it. You know, believe me, gentlemen, stilettos can do a lot of damage. Won't tell you how I know, but they can. Anywho, she clobbers the guy, and then she hits the guy that's driving. She kind of gets the seatbelt and pulls it across her, and then reaches and grabs the steering wheel, flips the car. And then we finally sort of see this Porsche pull up beside them. She gets out. He helps take out the rest of the guys, gets her luggage out of the boot, and he's like, "Oh, welcome to Berlin." And they get his Porsche, and this is David Percival, who's James McAvoy, who's absolutely brilliant in this role. He just plays that sort of slightly unhinged, loose cannon so well. So anyway, he kind of explains to her, you know, the lay of the land. He goes to take her to her hotel, and basically I've just got a stop to make, and he stops outside the Russian embassy and just drops a body outside and keeps going. And that's the kind of guy that he is, you know, just sort of balls to the wall, really. He kind of explains to her, you know, what's going on, the contacts, when the agent was last seen, who's getting contact with. You know, she sets herself up in the hotel, heads out, and then she meets. She goes to a bar, and a guy starts chatting her up that she's really not interested in, and then a girl comes over, a French girl, and kind of sort of saves her from this guy, and a bit of flirting going on. And this turns out to be the character Delphine, who is ends up being sort of French intelligence, and they end up working together on this case. The kind of the core theme of this film is one, there's a microfilm out there with a list of all double agents, or all agents, including double agents, of what's their code names, what's their real names and identities. So obviously this is worth a fortune, and this is what the MI6 agent was going to be bringing in, and obviously say he's been killed, so they're trying to find out what happened to him and what's happened to this microfilm. And we hear about this double agent called Satchel. So who's the identity of Satchel will be on this microfilm, and obviously all the intelligence agencies have been trying to find this out. There's just lots of kick-ass in this film. It's one of the reasons why I love it. There's a scene where she goes to the agent's apartment. She's looking around. The police turn up, and then she just basically finds different, like, she's like, you know, hits them with a fridge door, and then it's like piping, and she gets one, and she's like able to like wrap it around his neck, and she jumps off the balcony, and he's obviously taking the weight so she can sort of swing down. There's lots of you know, she really takes no prisoners, but she's also, you know, very smart, clued in, gets help where she needs to, but she never lets her guard down. And there's a scene that basically her and Delphine end up having a bit of a trust, shall we say. And she says something to her, and Delphine says that like, you know, that's like the first truthful thing you said or something. And she's like, how can you tell? And she goes, oh, your eyes change when you tell the truth. And she was like, oh, thanks for telling me. I'll make sure I don't do it again. Which is you know, a bit of foreshadowing for later. The basically David Percival ends up getting his hands on this microfilm. He looks at it. It's in a Rolex watch. And basically then contacts MI6 to say the microfilm has gone missing. We don't know where it is, but he's got certain information, and he's coming in, and he's going to tell them. Lorraine and him identified that the Stasi agent who created the microfilm, he says he's memorized the film. He still wants to defect. If they get him and his family out, he can tell them everything that's on this microfilm. So she comes up with a plan. She says, I'm going to use my people. She doesn't trust David as far as she can throw him. He doesn't trust her. Everybody's backstabbing everybody. It's one of those films where you literally can't trust anybody, and you know, everybody's shades of bad guy. So they come up with a plan to get him out. There's a protest march. Again, like I say, this is coming up to the the fall of Soviet Union. So his protest march for freedom. So they plan to smuggle him out in this demo rally, and they basically come out on the street. There's already KGB agents there lined up to shoot him. But part of the plan is that they've set it up so everybody opens umbrellas. So as they're smuggling him out, all these umbrellas go up, so they can't get a clear shot at him. But then you see David Percival, he's got a gun with a silencer and basically shoots the Stasi agent and legs it. And she's got him. She drags him into a bit, or she sees. She's looking for where the shot came from. She sees a butt of a gun being pulled back in. She pulls him into that building, sort of plumps him down, and says, "Stay there." And this is absolutely fantastic part of the film. I've watched the behind the scenes footage. They basically rehearsed for 3 months to do this segue, and it's her basically going into the building, going up the stairs, getting up to where the shooters are, and everything was done in this one continuous take for probably a good like 5 minutes or something. So she's working her way up. She's fighting with these we assume KGB agents on the stairs. You know, she sort of stabs one of them. One of them like hits her. She falls down the stairs. They're firing at each other until she makes her way up to a room where she meets this guy who took the shot. And then they have this almighty fight. It is absolutely amazing. It's one of those, like, she's picking up things and hitting him with it, and he's punching her. And this is the fight that basically she ends up completely black and blue. That's why she's in such a state at the start of the film. There's absolutely, and I say quite literally, they're not pulling any punches. There's none of this shying away from hitting women at all. She gives as good as she gets, and it makes sense with how he's like flinging her across the room because she is, you know, a light woman. But hell, she gets, like, she picks up things and hits him with it, and she picks up a bottle opener and basically stabs him in the eye and the neck with it. And like she's bleeding, the Stasi agent's bleeding. She's taping him up, and she gets him out the building and bundles him into a police car, and they drive off. The guy that she stabbed with the corkscrew comes stumbling out the building, and she just runs him over. And they drive off, and there's a car chasing them, and there's gunfights, and they finally manage to get away from this car, and they manage to stop. And then this car comes from nowhere and rams them into the river. Obviously they go into the river, and where the car has got hit, the Stasi agent, his foot's got stuck, and she's trying to help him out. Obviously, he's already shot. He's profusely bleeding. She's bleeding and injured, and they're trying to release his foot, but unfortunately, he drowns. And she gets out, but obviously she knows that David shot him. And then it's then a race to basically get out of Berlin. David's needs to go back and tell them what's on the microfilm. She's trying to get back to tell them that David is the one that killed the Stasi agent and has the film, and he's potentially the double agent. It's just a race against time with the backdrop, say, the Berlin Wall going down. It's kind of it's really fast paced. There's lots of action. It's, you know, you have to, you know, suspend belief a little bit, like you do with any of these films. But I love this film. It's an absolute romp from start to finish. Her British accent's very good, I will say. There's nothing worse than a cringy British accent. But all the acting in this is great. Like I say, the chemistry between her and James McAvoy, and her and the character Delphine, Sophie Butella, I think it's pronounced. It's just great fun. If you've got a Saturday night and you want to stick on an action film, I couldn't recommend this more. It's directed by David, I think it's pronounced Leitch or Leitch. Leitch. I think it's pronounced Leitch. You might know that name from him directing Deadpool 2. He was a producer on John Wick, and he also directed one of my favorite films of this year, Bullet Train, which I've also done a review on, and you can find that on my channel. Another great romp in a similar sort of vein to this. There's probably more humor in Bullet Train, but it's definitely humor in this as well. But the styling, and if you know his style of action, which again you can very much, even though he's producer, but you can very much see that in John Wick. I really recommend you give this film a go. As I say, she's a great character. She's not a Karen. She's not a Mary Sue. She's deeply flawed, but boy, can she kick ass. She's after watching this, she was definitely my girl crush. I was like, wow, this woman's just amazing. So yeah, it was just so much fun. I remember watching it at the cinema, just loving it from start to finish. I now own the 4K, and like I say, it's such good fun. I named my channel after it. So great performances, great action, um, good twist at the end. You may or not see it coming, but I enjoyed it anyway. So like I say, you've got a bit of free time on your hands. Go check out Atomic Blonde. You won't regret it. And I'll see you next time with another recommendation on Atomic Rewind.